back into the middle right here, and then back to the plane of the head to the back later on. So we get that pulled in a little bit better further. So I'm going to tighten up this brow, darken in right in through here where I see it, keep it general, simple with the rendering. And of course I generally will start in on the eye pretty soon after this. Doesn't always happen that way, but a lot of times I'll leave, I'll have the eye position pretty quickly in, and then I'll work on the eye generally kind of at the end and kind of tighten everything in together. Okay, so we're going along, I think, pretty good here. I think proportionally things are working pretty well from what I can tell, can see. And working on this brow, and then coming in for the structure of this side of the nose over through here. I think if anything, when I draw, head portrait studies, I tend to elongate the nose a little bit naturally. I might have done that just a touch in through here, but I'll just leave it. I don't think it's a bad thing here. But sometimes I've noticed I have a tendency to do that. I think we all have little tendencies. Some people make eyes too big, or maybe heads too round when they're horizontal, more vertical maybe. But we all have that, our little tendencies and idiosyncrasies. Okay. Alright, so let's now get in deeper into this eye region, and we can come back and darken in the brow a little bit later. And so let's talk about eyes. So we got the center of the eye line in through here, and remember that eyes are nothing more than a small sphere, like a ping pong ball, that sits down in the socket of your skull. So it's kind of like a little box form here, kind of an angled box form. Here's your eye socket in through here, and your eyeball sits right on in through there, and here's the pupil and iris that sits in through there, kind of looking at you. So what I try to locate is where the eyeball starts and ends, and I kind of gesture that in. So be careful, you don't want to make your drawing look like John Lennon glasses. I see a lot of students do that, but the actual rhythm of the eye and the eyeball is very top where the fold is, tucked under the brow, coming down to where the bottom of the fold is of the eye and through here. So I kind of get a feel for it, but I don't heavily draw it in. So you can see I've got a feel for it there, and then you find out where it starts here, where the fold is, where the eyelash fold is, kind of right in through there where I've marked it, and then the other side it's kind of right in through here. And her eyes are not symmetrical too, so really watch it. Let's watch making eyes and body features that are too symmetrical, because nobody's really that perfect physically, and it makes for a much more interesting, I think, realistic looking representation of what you're going after when you draw. Okay, so the eye in through here. So the eyeball itself feels generally right up in through here. That's where I have her eyeball set in as. That might be a little bit high on the left side. Okay, so once I get a feel for that, I'm always thinking about the roundness of form, the roundness of the model's eye and eyeball. So everything I'm doing, I'm drawing on a round ping pong ball, if you will, of a form. So it's like you're drawing detail on a rounded ball. If you don't, your eyes are going to wind up looking kind of like flattened angular footballs, or like Family Guy Stewie's head. Those of you that like Family Guy, you don't want to do that. And so here I can see where I've finally got the eye located, and I've got the brow. I can push her cheek, this brow part of the eye, a little back further where it needed to be. So So I got to push that over, which is fine, darken that in. So I would say this drawing is going pretty well. It's also a lot longer than I normally do when I'm doing a study on my own, but you know, talking through takes longer, and this is the benefit of you guys too as well. This is what you want to be able to do, is to be able to see it done as well. And then we'll bring down this little shadow in through here as well. So here we are now, about this far in. Notice how her eyes are a little angled in towards the image. So that's something I've got to maybe adjust for, kind of like that, slightly like that. So there's a little bit of an angle in through there. Notice how I make all kinds of diagrammatical lines or action lines, gesture lines, if you will. Those all disappear when you start to render on top. So I hardly ever erase. And it's not an ego thing, it's just a drawing thing where you just make all your structure, and at the end when you render out, all that stuff just disappears. Kind of like magic, I suppose. I don't know. Alright, so working on the eyeball in through here. This is the round part. This is where it ends inside the little area where debris gets trapped. That's open a little bit, and so I'm bringing up the eye, and notice how higher this bottom lash pulls in and up and over and through here. She comes over. The top lash, the top eye fold or lid folds over, so it actually comes over slightly and downward, and then the bottom comes up and folds underneath and in, just like the lip does too as well. The bottom folds up and in. So I guess there, if you think about it, there is a parallel between those two structures in a way. I haven't thought about that quite before. Okay. And then I'll go ahead now. We've got the bottom in through here coming up and in, and then we've got a little bit more in through here, and then a little extra pouch where she squeezed the eye a little bit in through there, and then we have some shadow coming down up and through there a little bit, in the cheeks and through there. We can make these a little darker for rosiness. Okay, with the eye, it's generally not solid white in through here, so I like to lay just a little tone over the eye, just to take off the bite of that, if you will, of the stark whiteness. This paper isn't true white anyway, so that's good, as it helps us out. And I can get the brow a little darker into there. And then the eye. So how I handle eyes is this. So I look for the width of where the pupil and iris are through here, and also on the back side, right in through there. And I go ahead and just cover those in pretty quickly, like so. And you notice it's a little bit darker, and that's fun. I'll get to that in a little bit. I'm going to darken this edge over here in. The eye almost disappears in shadow on the right side and through here, and we'll talk about the highlights in a minute. I'll grab my white marker in a moment, and we'll go for that a little bit later, and I'll show you how I do that. Here's the white marker, just a pin touch marker. We'll grab those in a little bit in a moment. So we have that eye in through here, about right in through there, and we can darken that up a little bit, where her darker part of the eye is going to be about right in through here. You have to watch eyes. Sometimes you can mess them up, and the model will look cross-eyed, or the drawing will look like they're not looking, if they're looking at the viewer, not quite at the viewer. So you kind of have to watch that a little bit. Sometimes that happens still to me a little bit. And then let's go for the other eye, coming on over and through here. So again, I find the relative placement of where the end of the eyeball, the fold of the eye, is in through here, right in through there, where little sleep of the eye gets caught in, I suppose. And again, she's kind of angled, so I'm getting a gestural feel for where that eye is. And I'm getting the top eyelid coming down and over. And again, she's slightly angled in. That's the axis of her eye. And so this part right here is a little higher and angled. This is where it's a little lower, right in through here. Okay, so we've got that. And now I'm thinking like a ball. So here's her lower eyelid that's coming from underneath, coming around through here and up and in to the fold in the end of the eye, right in through there, that part in through there. So now we'll go and get a little shadow with the brow, and we'll find that shadow in through there. A little bit of form moving down in through here a little bit. Okay. We'll take on a little bit more hatching in through there. Alright, so I'm now going to go and take on this back part of the eye at the top, kind of that folds in, kind of like that. Very graceful little cute eyes in through here, folding in through. Kind of now defining that top of the eye, then we've got to get that bottom lid in through here. In the actual underneath bottom of the true end of the eyeball is about right in through here. You can see where that shadow tone starts to congregate, so I'll hatch some right in through here when I'm drawing. So we got a good sense of the eye coming through, and then the structure of the side plane of the nose, I can start to tighten that up just a little bit and through there. Okay, so now we'll go for the eyeball, and I'll kind of just gently tone this in a little bit, and we find her the end of the left side of the eye about right in through here. And the end of the right side of the eye about right in through here. And we can kind of let that fade into the eye. I can pull this down a little bit. There we go. And then we can start to catch underneath this brow. Catch the eyebrow a little bit further and darken that in as it comes through. And now we can start to tighten up this eye a little bit. And in the darkest part of the eye, I forget pupil or the iris. I need to go back and make sure I got my terminology. Which one is the right? I think the pupil is the darkest part of the inside, but we joke about that. I need to figure that out. Okay, so darkest part of the eye in through there. Alright, so I feel like we've got a pretty good place, pretty accurate in terms of proportion, scale. I'm going to, judging from what I have here now, darken a little bit on the side plane in through here. Kind of clear up some things. This is probably good enough now for a sketch. And maybe take on a little bit more of this cheek in through here. So now I'm in kind of just tweaking mode, just adjusting as I need to. He really gives her some blood red, sort of nice cheeks, lots of rouge for sure coming through. Okay. Maybe a little bit of just marks down and through to follow. Okay, so what I'll do now is I'll take the sepia tone pen, this browner pen, and I'm going to kind of emphasize just a few areas of darks where I want, maybe in through in the hair a little bit. And I'm going to keep it really loose, really gestural. I don't want to overwork these areas, and I want to get out of this drawing fairly quick because my attention span is starting to fade, and probably yours is too. But more importantly is to, I'd never want to belabor a sketch. There's kind of a time frame that I feel like, okay, that's enough, and I move on. Now that's different for a lot of artists. It just depends on what you use your sketchbook for. So here I might refine where I've got the forehead. And she's got a pretty high forehead, and the hair's pulled up and curled up, so it's pretty high from here to here. So I feel like I'm close. I may just put a few darker lines in through here just to say I'm going to raise that up, and I'm trying just to indicate through gesture and through action, the action of this mark making stroke, where that hair is moving to. Again, I'm not going to sit and render this all day, and I'll put a little hatching mark dark for up and through here where that shadow starts and takes off into, and then kind of up in through here where that other shadow is we can work from. So I like to keep a very gestural record of it. And then up in through here where that side, it looks like she's got some kind of headdress, some kind of scarf maybe, I don't know. I'm sure some kind of art historian has written about this piece and what's on it through here, what's on her head, I mean. And then I'll emphasize, I think that's enough for that area, just a few areas of where coarse shadow is with the figure. I can come back and emphasize just a few ginger areas of darkness, gingerly here, very softly through here. I'll emphasize the point of the inside of the eye, I see darken through here around the eye. And so I talked a little bit earlier in the other lecture of where I draw through the reflective highlight, and I'll take the white pen in a moment and I'll dab that, and I'll show you how I get that nice clean reflection. Now I could draw around that highlight, but I prefer not to. This is just a simple, quicker, easier way. It works, I think, pretty well in this technique, which is just layering pen and working a very kind of academic three-dimensional approach. And everything that we're doing here is to try to get the form to turn and to be round and to have volume. And again, that's something that is a way of starting in drawing and painting. And you can, in there, you can be a representational painter, which I love to look at, very much so. But that's not my practice professionally. And so, or you can do like many other artists, you can break traditions and create others. That's how we get many movements within representational art. But then obviously we have Impressionism, Post-Impressionism, Modernism, and Postmodernism, and wherever we're at now in this postmodernist world. So here I am following along in through some of the coarse shadows of the figure, and I'm not going to go too much further. I'm going to emphasize a little bit of the chin down in through here. Try to keep it as soft as I can. Try to take on where the bottom of the chin truly ends for her. And then I'll just touch on briefly the bottom of the nose. Now I can come back in and pick up a little bit of the nostril, which is a little higher, and through here touch on the bottom of the nose. This one's a little smaller, and through here, and then I'll hit on this brow, touch on this brow and eye, and through here kind of tighten this up so my audience can see that. And through here, kind of connect this, darkening this eye a little bit, and through here. We keep that nice and kind of pulled back and faded back. The whites of the eye, the eyeball proper, are really not very white at all. Most of the time they're in some kind of shadow from the brow. Even when they're in full light, they're really not the flake white or lead white out of the tube of paint if you're painting. So you have to be careful when you render eyes not to make that too light, too bright. So okay, just a tuck back so I can a little darker in that eye flap, just to tuck it back, and it folds pretty strongly back in through there. And then she's got a little eyelash that's dark, just kind of a darker line that pulls us in through to the side of the eye. And then I think that's probably going to suffice there. Okay, so I think we have that. Maybe pull in just a little bit more in through there. And then, okay, lastly, well, oh, sorry, how about the top of the lip? A little bit darker. Let's pull her in a little further. This is in shadow just a little bit. We'll keep her toned in. Alright, and then lastly, with the highlight of the eye, I take this white paint pen, and you kind of have to shake it up just to get the ink to start to work, and then take it out of its wrapper. And so there's the tip. This is a little bit wider tip, and then you notice, I hope you can see it over here, it just spews out, dabs out paint. And so I just find where the reflection is of the eye, and then I start to dab that area. Yeah, and it makes a really nice, and it dries pretty quickly. It makes a really nice reflective mark. And sometimes they're circular, sometimes they're a little dot and dash, some are darker than others, so I have to keep that in mind. And then I think that gives you the idea. And then what I could do once that dries is take the black marker, the pit pen, and where the pupil iris is, just give a little bit more contrast, dab in there where I see it, and bring that out just a little bit further to give that kind of a nice eye feeling. And maybe I'll hit the darkest of darks, just a flick or two where I need it, maybe right in through here. I don't want to be too casual with that. I think that's enough for now. Okay, so I think you see the possibilities now there. So that's the first study of the sketch here, and with Rubens and the head study through here, that's plenty long enough so you get an idea of what we have here and what we have there. And we'll move on to another study, and we'll do that one with the falcon pen, and I'll show you that and how it looks just a little bit different. It's a very similar technique. Okay, so we'll move on to that one.